Greetings from Serbia, Belgrade, Dobro jutro. I am back here, super excited. Today I want to be straight to the point. I am showing you how to make an amazing cake, which is called the walnut with beer cake. I learned this from my mom here in Serbia. Straight to our ingredients, we have cimet, which is the cinnamon. We have our cacao, the cocoa, and then we have our sugar. And then we have our cooking oil and beer. We are using Yellen beer and the measurement is 0.5 liter can. And next we have our already grinded walnuts, very fresh. This was done in advance, the grinding. Then we have our baking powder, 1 sachet. We have our wheat flour, and then finally we have our jam. So I am going to start and explaining step by step. First step, we take our bowl and then we pour the 0.5 liter of our beer into that particular bowl. And then the second step that will follow, we will be adding sugar onto the mixture. And our sugar will be a measurement of 1.5 cup of sugar. And once the 1.5 cup of sugar is put, we are going to mix well. You mix well until the sugar residue is not felt anymore. And then our next step after that, remember our measurement is 200 ml for a cup. So you need to remember that when I mention a cup, you know it's 200 ml. Then next we are putting our walnuts. We are putting 2 cups of walnuts. And when I say 2 cups, you still remember that is 200 ml per cup. Yes, and then you make sure you mix the mixture well. You make sure you mix it so well. And the next step, after mixing it so well and ensuring that all the residue is not felt from the sugar, and then the walnut, you then pour your cacao. And cacao, we are using 2 spoons of cacao. And the spoons is soup spoon, or do we say the eating spoon? And then for this, make sure you mix also very well. It's very important to mix very well. You can see I'm using a whisker. I love to use a whisker. It's natural and it's amazing. It does a good job despite how it looks sometimes. Some people prefer to use the machine version, but I prefer to use the whisker. And for this particular type of cake, you don't have to get the mixture so smooth, like over smooth, because remember we have our walnuts there that are just grinded and they're not really in powder form. So we want to maintain that. So it's not an issue of making the mixture over soft. So you stir well until you ensure that the cocoa is really mixed well onto the other ingredients that were put before. The next step, we have to put wheat flour as the next step. And for wheat flour, we are putting 4 cups of wheat flour, the white flour. And 4 cups, you still remember our measurement. And remember, for the flour, we had already mixed the flour together with the 1 sachet of baking powder, and we sieved. That was done in advance. And in this case, after you put all the flour mixed with the baking powder together, you stir again. You make sure you mix it so well. And you can see that our mixture is a bit thick, and that's the way to go. That is how it's supposed to be. If you do the correct measurements, you'll definitely come out with this kind of mixture, and you'll come out for sure with a great cake. So you make sure you stir and you just make sure that it mixes so well. And then we have to pour the mixture into our oven plate. And for the oven plate, you have two options. You can use the oven paper, or rather you can put oil, some oil, not just a small amount of oil, on the oven plate with a little bit of flour, so that when you pour this mixture and when you put the cake in the oven, once the cake is ready, it doesn't get sticky. So that's the reason of doing that. And then once that is done, you make sure that you spread it so nicely. Spread the mixture so nicely on the woven plate, so that you don't have a kind of a mountain cake. I know for those who have ever tried to make a cake, you can understand me. So we want the cake to have a good, to fit in so well on the oven plate and to come out in a good shape, 100% perfect shape. We don't want a scenario whereby one side of the cake is a bit up and the other side of the cake is a bit down. So that's what I mean by the mountain cake. Yes. So make sure you spread it. You can use your baking brush to do that, and that does a very, very good job. After that, we put our cake into our oven. And so when you put the cake in the oven, it should take a maximum of 40 minutes. 40 minutes, and at a temperature of 180 degrees. Very strictly, do not go above. And do not go above 40 minutes, by the way. If you go above 40 minutes, that's too much. Your cake will start getting over dry or getting crispy. That is not the kind of cake we want to make. And the temperature has to maintain at 180 degrees. We don't want to burn our cake after, after putting all the hard work, and then only later to burn the cake, and then you can't eat it anymore. So let's make sure we observe all the rules, all the ingredients, the correct measurements, and be sure that you'll have a very, very great cake. So that is how our cake looks in the oven. So we are giving it 40 minutes, and then we take it out. Only 40 minutes, and then you take it out and let it to cool down for a while. So after it cools down is when we can then go to the next step. So you guys will all see how the cake turns out after 40 minutes, how the cake looks like. And here we go. That is how our cake looks like. You see, it's done. We have to let it cool. So after it cools, now we have to use our jam as the next step. You spread the jam sparingly on top of the cake, and make sure you spread it all over throughout the whole cake. You can use a spoon, like we are using a spoon here, or you can use a baking brush if you have. I prefer spoon for me also, so that I don't have to stay there for long. The spoon, you're able to scoop some good amount of the jam. As you can see, we are spreading throughout the top part of the cake. So that is our topping. And then after you spread it very nicely and ensure that the whole part of the upper part of the cake is done jamming, you then put your walnuts. You make sure you have some walnut remaining after you're done. During the mixing process, make sure you have some remaining, and then you'll pour it on top of the jam, and that is the final product of how our cake looks like. And then the cake is ready to eat. Very moist, very appetizing, very delicious, and very healthy. And as you can see how spongy it is. Oh my god, this is so yummy. Thank you guys for watching. I truly appreciate for the support you're giving this channel. Let me know your comments down below. Remember to share this video, like it, and remember to subscribe if you haven't, guys. Now we are going to enjoy our cake. You can take it with juice or tea or anything of your preference. Until next time, guys. Ciao.